In a stunning twist, Prince William unleashes a royal bill that strips Meghan Markle's children of their titles, shaking Parliament to its core. The public supports it. The palace backs it. And Meghan, furious, cornered, exposed. As legal power shifts, her royal status crumbles, this time with no way back. Parliament shakes as Prince William unleashes the title reform bill. The air inside Westminster Palace was tense, the kind of atmosphere that builds before something historic. And then, without fanfare or royal procession, Prince William quietly took his seat in the gallery above the Parliament floor. Below him, a new bill was being introduced, and what it carried could change the British monarchy forever. This wasn't just any legislative move, it was a direct strike on royal privilege, cloaked in the language of reform. The goal? To strip royal titles from non-working members of the monarchy, a clear nod to one couple across the Atlantic, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. But the real shock came when insiders confirmed that the bill's most controversial clause wasn't crafted by Parliament. It came from William himself. Buried in the language of succession law was a devastating clause aimed at Meghan's children, Archie and Lilibet Mountbatten-Windsor. It suggested that titles would no longer pass to descendants not actively involved in royal duty, meaning no more Prince Archie or Princess Lilibet. That clause, though presented as modernization, carried a heavy message. Your children are out. Sources say this wasn't symbolic. This was a constitutional earthquake, a complete rewriting of how the monarchy protects its bloodline. And while King Charles had long talked of a slimmed-down monarchy, he hadn't acted. William did. Political insiders quickly revealed that this wasn't a last-minute idea. William had been laying the groundwork quietly for over a year, meeting with MPs, strategists, and constitutional advisors. He waited, watched, and then acted, with timing so precise it stunned even seasoned observers. As one royal correspondent put it bluntly, this wasn't Parliament's move, this was William's. What made the entire event more impactful was William's demeanor. No speech, no gloating, no statement to the press. He simply nodded to an aide and exited through a side door. But the silence spoke louder than any soundbite. The royal family, known for avoiding direct confrontation, had finally made its move, and it was surgical, cold, and calculated. Meghan and Harry weren't being shamed publicly. They were being erased through protocol. By the time the story hit headlines, it was clear. William had crossed a line no future king had ever dared cross, targeting the next generation, not with emotion, but with law. And 5,000 miles away in California, Meghan Markle was about to find out. Montecito in chaos. Meghan's furious reaction behind closed doors. The news hit Montecito like a missile. Inside the Sussex estate, Meghan reportedly read the headline on her phone, stood up and screamed, "They're trying to erase my children!" The carefully composed Duchess, often seen in polished interviews and posed Instagram shots, was gone. In her place was a mother in full-blown fury. Multiple insiders confirmed that Meghan stormed into her private office, slammed the door, and began firing off voice notes to her crisis PR team. Her voice, usually measured and composed, was shaking with rage. This wasn't about public image anymore. It was personal. Prince Harry, stunned and silent, was said to have reread the bill coverage over and over. For years, he believed his brother, no matter how strained their relationship, would never go after his children. That belief was shattered in seconds. Within 2 hours, Meghan's team had drafted 3 different PR responses. One was defiant, lashing out at the crown for cruelty. One leaned emotional, a tearful defense of motherhood. The third was a softer, maternal approach, appealing to the public's sympathy. Meghan wanted to go public immediately, but her advisors begged her to wait. One strategist reportedly told her, "Let them look like the aggressors. If you strike first, it looks like guilt." Meghan hated that advice. She wanted action now. As one staffer described it, she didn't care about optics anymore. She saw this as a direct attack on her children's legacy. Inside their home, the atmosphere was described as tense and volatile. Meghan paced back and forth, venting that the royal family had always resented her. And now they were going after her kids. She accused William of orchestrating a deliberate humiliation campaign, saying to her team, "They want to erase my children from history because they hate me." At the same time, social media exploded. Hashtags like Royal Retaliation and Archie and Lilibet started trending. Supporters cried foul, while critics claimed Meghan was finally facing consequences. The divide was sharp and growing. But inside Montecito, the mood wasn't about spin, it was panic. For years, Meghan had built her brand and her children's identity around the prestige of royalty. If the titles disappeared, so did a major part of their global allure. She couldn't believe it. Not from Charles, and certainly not from William. But what Meghan didn't yet realize was that this move wasn't made in anger. It wasn't emotional. It was strategic. And most chilling of all, it had been in motion for months. And next, the world would find out just how long William had been planning to cut Meghan off. For good. The hidden clause. William's long game to cut off Meghan. While Meghan was reacting in rage, back in the UK, insiders were revealing the real bombshell behind the bill. This wasn't a sudden decision. Prince William had been planning it for over a year, slowly and carefully building a legislative wall to isolate the Sussexes from the monarchy for good. According to senior palace sources, William started holding private meetings with members of Parliament in late 2023. These were quiet discussions, no cameras, no leaks, aimed at one goal: redefining what royal status really means. His message was clear. In the modern era, royal titles must be tied to royal service. Not celebrity, not branding, not Netflix. At the heart of the new legislation was a specific clause, hidden beneath formal legal language, that stunned even veteran aides. It stated that royal titles would not automatically pass to descendants of those not actively serving the crown. In short, if your parents walked away from duty, your title doesn't follow you. And for Meghan, that meant her worst nightmare was now becoming law. This was no longer about removing Harry and Meghan from royal engagements. This was about removing their children, Archie and Lilibet, their key, from the royal framework entirely. As one royal legal advisor reportedly said, this was surgical. Meghan and Harry weren't just being sidelined, they were being structurally erased. Even more shocking? This clause wasn't created by the government or forced by public demand. It was written under William's direction. Behind the scenes, many senior royal aides supported it. There was a growing belief that the Sussex saga had damaged the institution beyond repair, and William was the only one willing to take action. King Charles, sources claim, was hesitant, emotionally attached to Harry and wary of stirring further drama. But William was unbothered. He wasn't acting out of revenge, he was protecting what he saw as the future of the crown. A former palace insider shared, William knew the blowback would come, but he also knew that if this wasn't done now, the monarchy would forever be at risk of being hijacked by media games. And for Meghan, The worst part wasn't just the clause itself. It was knowing that her brother-in-law, not some cold bureaucrat, had written her children out of royal history. The law had spoken, but the battle for public opinion was only just beginning. Meghan's power crumbles as public opinion turns. As Meghan scrambled to build a response, the public delivered a blow she didn't see coming. They agreed with William. A new UK-wide poll released just 72 hours after the bill's reveal showed a shocking number. 69% of respondents supported stripping royal titles from non-working royals' children, especially those living overseas. The message was brutal, but clear. You left. Why should your kids stay? Suddenly, headlines weren't asking if Meghan was being targeted. They were asking why she ever thought Archie and Lilibet deserved royal titles in the first place. Even usually neutral media outlets were shifting tone. One front page read, "From royal to reality. Is it time to let go?" Even more damaging, American media began hesitating. Networks and magazines that once featured Meghan as the face of modern royalty were now questioning the brand. One morning show host bluntly asked, "Is this a mother fighting for her kids? Or a duchess fighting to stay relevant?" The wave of support Meghan had relied on was quietly slipping away. Her emotional playbook, heartfelt interviews, media silence, subtle digs, wasn't landing like it used to. The public had grown weary. What once felt like a woman pushing back against an outdated institution now looked like a calculated campaign for control. Social media was no kinder. Comment sections were flooded with posts calling her out of touch, obsessed with titles, and clinging to status she willingly gave up. The very image she had spent years shaping, the underdog duchess turned global icon, was crumbling in real time. PR experts weighed in across platforms. One strategist wrote, "This was the tipping point. The title debate wasn't about royal rules. It was about Meghan's refusal to let go of something she claimed didn't matter anymore." And inside Montecito, the walls were closing in. Meghan's team tried floating new angles. They pitched emotional responses, victim-centered messaging, and possible legal action. But nothing was sticking. The public wasn't moved. Because now, Meghan wasn't seen as fighting for her children's future. She was seen as fighting for her past, and losing. And across the pond, William wasn't saying a word. But he didn't have to. His silence was winning. Silent but deadly. William's strategy leaves Meghan cornered. While Meghan panicked in California, Prince William sat back, silent, calm, and completely unmoved. No interviews, no comments, not a single quote. But behind the scenes, he was executing one of the most effective royal strategies in recent history. After Parliament voted in favor of the title reform bill's first reading, William gave a quiet nod to his aides and left the building. No smile, no applause. It was a silent victory, and exactly how Kensington Palace wanted it. According to senior royal staff, the entire strategy was built on one phrase: "Let her talk. We'll move the law quietly." While Meghan's team worked overtime on press releases and planned emotional appeals, William's circle did the opposite. They avoided headlines, declined interviews, and focused solely on making sure the legislation moved swiftly and without disruption. Private meetings with members of Parliament continued through the week. William personally checked in with trusted MPs to ensure no one would delay or soften the bill. He didn't want leaks. He wanted results. Even within palace walls, William stayed disciplined. When Queen Camilla and Princess Catherine reportedly raised concerns about the emotional fallout, William remained firm. This isn't about feelings. This is about the monarchy surviving the modern world. he allegedly said to one advisor. His confidence wasn't arrogance, it was calculation. He knew Meghan would try to control the narrative, just like she did after the Oprah interview, the Netflix docuseries, and the Spotify fallout. But this time, William was a step ahead. He stripped her power not with words, but with structure. There was no dramatic public fallout to spin, no explosive tabloid quote to attack. Just a cold, legal reform that moved forward while Meghan flailed in the media. That contrast, Meghan sobbing on TV versus William working silently behind closed doors, became the story. And the public noticed. One UK newspaper headline summed it up best. He changed the law. She changed the channel. Even critics of the monarchy had to admit, this was smart. It was effective. And most of all, it was unstoppable. But Meghan wasn't about to take the loss lying down. She had one move left, and it would be her biggest swing yet. Meghan's counterattack backfires spectacularly. Determined to reclaim the narrative, Meghan authorized an exclusive interview with a major U.S. network, billed as her most emotional, yet the title, A Mother's Fight, My Children's Royal Rights. Set in a softly lit California garden, the interview was designed for maximum impact. Meghan in pastels, surrounded by family photos, fighting tears as she spoke about how the palace was erasing her children's identity. Early clips leaked to the press promised bombshells, accusations of institutional cruelty, claims the family had targeted innocent children. A new claim that the Queen never wanted Archie to lose his title, but her wishes were ignored after her death. Meghan's PR team believed they had finally found the emotional high ground. The story would be simple: a grieving mother versus a cold monarchy. But before the interview even aired, the British press struck first. The Daily Mail published internal palace memos showing that the clause in the title reform bill had actually been part of the Queen's long-term succession plan, drafted as early as 2019, before Meghan even left the UK. The leak was devastating. It dismantled Meghan's core argument that this was a personal attack by William. Instead, it looked like Meghan was rewriting history to serve herself. Worse, media insiders confirmed the Queen had discussed modern title guidelines with both William and Charles in her final years, and had pushed for clarity in royal ranks. This wasn't revenge. It was royal order. By the time Meghan's interview aired, the mood had shifted. Viewers didn't see a mother. They saw a strategist performing vulnerability. The tears felt rehearsed. The quotes felt too polished. And the internet responded harshly. One viral tweet read, "She said she didn't care about titles. Now she's crying over them. Pick a lane." The backlash hit hard. U.S. media hosts began questioning her credibility. British outlets doubled down on the narrative that Meghan was trying to weaponize motherhood for media points. Behind the scenes, Meghan's team was shaken. They'd gambled on sympathy and lost control of the story again. And this time, even some of their most loyal backers began stepping away quietly. Because what Meghan didn't realize was simple. William hadn't just beaten her at politics, he beat her at PR. And the cracks in her empire were only just starting to show. Panic in Montecito. Meghan's media empire starts to crack. As Meghan's interview failed to land the emotional punch her team hoped for, the aftershocks hit Montecito hard. The sprawling California estate that once symbolized her reinvention as a powerful global figure now felt more like a fortress under siege. But the real collapse wasn't happening outside. It was happening from within. For years, Meghan had built herself into a brand. A duchess turned activist, producer, speaker, and humanitarian. But the royal title had always been the crown jewel of that image. Now, with that title slipping further out of reach, the image began to distort, and fast. Hollywood insiders started whispering. Production companies that once courted Meghan for her name alone were now pulling back. A source at a major studio confirmed, "She's not a safe bet anymore." Every deal comes with backlash. Invitations to elite events, fundraisers, and speaking circuits started drying up quietly. It wasn't personal, it was business. Meghan had become a brand risk. Within Archewell, the non-profit turned production hub, activity slowed to a crawl. Projects once hyped in bold press releases now sat in development limbo. One senior consultant reportedly resigned, citing strategic confusion behind closed doors. Internally, a new initiative called Project Radiant, a global women's summit meant to rival Davos, was shelved indefinitely. A second source simply said, "No one wants to sponsor a scandal." Meghan had always surrounded herself with polished media talent. But now, even they were struggling to spin this one. Because no amount of brand strategy could cover up what was really happening. Meghan's influence was weakening. In boardrooms, execs asked the hard question, "Is this still worth the heat?" And for many, the answer was now a quiet no. And while Meghan fought to hold it all together, Harry was falling apart beside her. Harry caught in the crossfire and starting to crumble. For Prince Harry, the latest royal bombshell wasn't just a media disaster, it was a personal unraveling. As William's bill tore through Parliament and Meghan prepared her public fight back, Harry was left suspended between two collapsing worlds. Insiders say Harry's mental health deteriorated fast. He reportedly began experiencing anxiety attacks, withdrawing from public events, and avoiding even internal Archewell meetings. One staffer said, "He looked lost, pale, distracted, like he was reliving something he couldn't stop." The trigger? His brother's betrayal. Harry had always believed William would never take aim at Archie and Lilibet, no matter how strained things got between them. But now, William had drawn a line in law and crossed it without blinking. When Harry reached out to King Charles, hoping for reassurance, the response was chillingly brief. A call, described by sources as cold and procedural, ended with no promises, no comfort, and no suggestion of reversal. The message was clear. The monarchy was moving on, with or without him. Back home, tensions between Harry and Meghan intensified. Meghan reportedly accused him of being too passive, of not defending their children hard enough, of still seeking approval from the family that had turned on them. According to insiders, Harry pushed back, but without force. He was breaking, caught between love for his wife and grief over his royal bloodline being severed. At one point, Harry is said to have told a friend, "I thought I was protecting them by leaving. Now I feel like I just made everything worse." As Meghan strategized and fought to stay in control, Harry retreated into silence. The man once celebrated for leaving the firm on his own terms now seemed like a prince without a home. Emotionally adrift, politically abandoned, and unsure of where he fit in either world. And the worst part? He hadn't even seen the final blow yet. Because the palace was about to speak. And this time, it would be final. The final blow. Palace confirms titles are gone. Forever. As Meghan's tear-filled interview made its way across global screens, Buckingham Palace released a brief clinical statement. No drama, no names, no emotion. But its impact? Devastating. The official release confirmed that the title reform bill had passed its final reading, and that the changes would now be formally enacted into royal protocol. The language was sharp but distant. This adjustment aligns with historical precedent and the late Queen's intentions for a modern, functioning monarchy. That sentence, "the late Queen's intentions," did more than silence debate. It removed Meghan from the equation completely. The palace wasn't punishing her, they were, according to the statement, simply fulfilling Queen Elizabeth II's legacy. No blame, no emotion, just royal machinery doing its job. It was the move William had been waiting for. Clean, unshakable, and, above all, permanent. There would be no HRH for Archie and Lilibet, no re-entry clause, no ceremonial exceptions. The decision was not up for debate. And more importantly, it wasn't reversible. Media around the world shifted their tone immediately. Headlines once sympathetic to Meghan's struggle flipped in real time. Final decision leaves Meghan powerless. William delivers quietest knockout blow in royal history. The Queen's will, not Meghan's woes, and the public followed. Even some of Meghan's former supporters began to reconsider. What if this wasn't about punishing children, but about preserving the crown's future? With one short announcement, the monarchy took back control of the narrative. And Meghan's campaign, once fueled by emotion and public empathy, now looked like an overreaction, maybe even a manipulation. There were no second chances now. The line had been drawn in royal ink, and in Montecito, Meghan was left staring at a truth she hadn't prepared for. The crown doesn't clap back. It just ends the conversation. But for the Sussexes, the ending wasn't mutual, because only one of them was ready to move on. The Sussex era ends, and Meghan stands alone. With the royal decision finalized and the public momentum gone, Clarence House issued a final administrative update. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex would no longer hold any royal privileges, nor would their children retain titles under the restructured law. The message was bureaucratic, but its meaning couldn't be clearer. The Sussex era was over. Inside palace circles, this was called formal detachment. No bridges burned, but none left standing either. Meghan, determined to control the closing chapter, began shopping a new memoir titled Mother Interrupted. It was pitched as a raw, emotional account of how the monarchy ripped her children from their birthright. But publishers weren't biting. According to one insider, the market has shifted. Meghan fatigue is real. Meanwhile, Harry began pulling away. He reportedly made several solo visits to the UK, reconnecting with military charities, former staff, and even select senior royals. Not to make a return, but to rebuild some kind of peace. He no longer spoke of being a prince. Instead, he referred to himself simply as Harry. His team hinted he may take up support roles for royal initiatives in the future, quietly, privately, and without official status. And Meghan? She remained in Montecito, largely unseen, her empire shrinking, her circle tightening. Her once busy schedule was now eerily quiet. Invitations stopped, projects stalled, and her relevance, so carefully constructed over 5 years, began to fade. Once hailed as the modern face of royalty, Meghan Markle now stood alone. Not because she was silenced, but because the world had finally stopped listening. The title reform bill passed. The palace spoke. And Meghan Markle, once the face of modern royalty, is left powerless. No titles, no privilege, no return. William didn't just move Parliament. He ended the Sussex chapter. And now, Meghan faces the one thing she never expected: irrelevance.